Hey everyone, it's Classic DM. So as we pull into port here, let's talk about something. We got the captain's room at our disposal. We're going to pull that rule book out and talk about some of the things I found out. One of them we're going to talk about is Proficiency Bonus. That's what this video is all about. So what is the goal of the video and who's going over this for you? This is something that's really important for you to understand. First of all, I'm a AAA video game designer. I've done tons of video games in the game industry. I first started playing D&D with Advanced Dungeons & Dragons in 1977 and 78. So the goal of the video is, I'm a big D&D player. I played 1st edition, 2nd edition, 3rd, 3.5, not a 4th, not a 5th edition player. The goal of the video is really kind of to consolidate what I've learned as I've been teaching the rules to myself by going through the rule book and making notations. And today we're going to focus on one concept and one concept alone, and that's going to be Proficiency Bonus. So what I've done is I went through the whole book, right? And I said, you know what? I got to get a handle on Proficiency Bonus. This stuff is everywhere. It's critical to the whole game. It's a little bit different than it was in 3.0 and 3.5. Now, if you're a Pathfinder 1 player, you may say, oh, dude, it's the same. That's fine. I don't know if it is or not. I was not a huge Pathfinder 1 player. I liked Pathfinder books, but I use them in AD&D. So how are we going to do this? So here's what we're going to do. I went through the entire Core Rulebook, and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to glean out all the rules and consolidate it to be a reference, so I can make sure that I understand all the synergies and what's interconnected, what elements are to take in consideration, when do you add the proficiency bonuses, and all this kind of stuff. Some of the basic ideas you're going to hear in here, you probably already got it. The book does a great job of repeating itself. That's not necessarily a bad thing. The word proficiency bonus appears like 82 times in the Core Rulebook. Now, of course, that's also including a glossary, and there's always going to be repetition when you have anytime you have a book that's trying to teach you something. But let's just get right into it, okay? So what is this idea of proficiency bonus? So it's a simple way of assessing your character's general level of training and aptitude for a given task. Not across the board, but for what you're currently doing. So if Michael Jordan's shooting a free throw, what's his skill in shooting free throws? It's very different than his three-pointers or versus his dunks, things like that. So you probably got a handle on that. If you're here watching this video and you know anything about role-playing games, you're not surprised. But it's broken down into 5. The number 5 is used a lot in the entire game, which is really great because it makes it very easy to remember things. You have 20 levels. You can divide that up into 4 different sections. You've got 5 different skills levels for the proficiency bonuses. Untrained, trained, expert, master, and legendary. Now, each rank gives you a different proficiency bonus. If you're untrained at a statistic, your proficiency bonus is +0. It means nothing. If you've ever played Traveler or things like that, it's like, oh, vac suit 0. You've never used a vac suit before. You don't know how it works. So, and that's the case. You just rely on your raw ability modifier. Now, what is an ability modifier? Well, we'll talk about that really briefly in a minute. You've heard me maybe mention it in the previous video. Your ability modifier is something that's been around since 3.5. It is essentially like the bonus you get for having ability scores above 12. There's like +1, +2, +3. So sometimes you're going to have a skills that are going to be a check towards your dexterity. Some are strength-based, some are charisma-based. That's where that all gets into play. So from untrained, what you really care about is trained, expert, master, and legendary, which is going to be +2, +4, +6, +8, respectively. And proficiency ranks are part of almost every statistic in the game. That's from page 10. So when you see these little markers here at the end of these things, right? This is not me trying to be fanciful giving you MLA citations, but that basically tells you what page number we're talking about. So if you want to follow on the PDF, or do you want to look it up yourself, say, wait a minute, you said this here, but do you really mean that? You kind of caveat that with your own personal opinion. So you can take a look at that kind of stuff and see where the stuff's coming from. So there's the ranks once again. I've just pulled this out of the book itself. Now, if you can't remember these, this TEML or UTEML, it's right there in the upper left-hand corner of the character sheet, which you can see right over here, right? So they put this on here for you because you're going to need to remember it. So 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, it's all increments of 2. So the increment of 2 thing is something you may remember from my previous video about ability boost. So it's not +1, it's +2. +2 is significant. On a D20, you divide it by 2, you got 10. It feels more significant. I think that's fantastic. But proficiency is a system that measures the aptitude in a specific task or quality, has 5 ranks, right? So this is, you're going to see this happen a lot. This is page 13. In the first introductory chapter of the book, are you getting mesmerized with this? I knew you were going to be looking at this the entire time, not listening to me. They're describing and redefining these ideas a couple of times in a row. There's nothing wrong with that because you're trying to remember it. And as proficiency bonus relates to other things, it'll re-mention and re-describe in less and less and less language. So you've already read this once. You've already heard about this once. Let's move on from there. Now, this is a key one. This one's really important. It's on page 27. If your proficiency rank Okay, different time you see the word rank. For a statistic is trained, expert, master, legend, your bonus equals your character's level plus another number based on the rank. So now things start getting a little tricky. I had to ask a question about this the other day. So let's just say, for example, that you are proficient in something, you have a skill, you're at expert level, you made a level 1 character, and the level 1 character is right off the bat trained at something, right, which is +2. And then you get to be level 2, and you get to be level 3, and you're level 3, but maybe you didn't rank up the rank in the skill you had, and you have to do a specific type of check on something. So your level is going to increase, so your proficiency bonus when you're playing the game and you need to roll dice to make checks, remember your level is going to be part of that a lot. On things like to hit rolls, not damage, things of that nature. So remember the level, from levels 1 to level 20, is going to be included in this +2, +4, +6, +8 proficiency bonus based on rank. Now, I won't get off into the skill system and try to stay back on subject here. So really, how is it used, right? So anytime you're rolling a d20 in a game, right, proficiency gives you a bonus that's added when determining the following modifier statistics: armor class, AC, attack rolls, perception, which is really initiative, saving throws, skills, and effectiveness of spells. Now the spell thing is very different. It's kind of lifted from 3.0, but there's an interesting twist on it. It could have been in Pathfinder 1. I don't know for a fact. I'm professing to be a Pathfinder expert, but this really jumped out at me because right off the bat, page 13, you're to listen. When you read through the book, here's the areas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas in the game where your proficiency bonus is going to mean something. So let's go through some of those, right? Now, perception. When you think of perception normally, I'm just going to highlight both these here real quick, right? When you think of perception, you think of things like, it's something like a spot check, or maybe it's trying to detect traps or things like that. So perception is based on wisdom, okay? Which you may first you're like, whoa, what? I mean, clerics can get a massive bonus. If you ever play any games that have stealth mechanics in it, I hate to do it like a Warhammer Online, things like that. You'll find a lot of games, other games use things that are like, what's your intuitive ability to detect something happening? In AD&D, your dexterity was used for reaction attacking adjustment. You may remember that if you're an old school player. But in this game, in second edition of Pathfinder, perception is pretty much the initiative thing. So there's other ways to do initiative, which is starting an encounter, okay, which basically means combat. So your character's perception modifier measures how alert they are. So if you're just playing a hardcore strength-oriented character or a finesse-oriented dexterity character or an incredible caster, you're like, I need to make sure I got some good wisdom and also trained in some things to help me. So if you're rolling for initiative, you might find yourself, yes, I'm the caster, I'm in the back, I get to go last. So the perception modifier measure how alert you are. The modifier is equal to your proficiency bonus in perception plus your wisdom modifier. So you can see yourself, you're playing a cleric, you're the best healer in the whole world, you're totally armored up, you're ready to go, you're not going to charge forward, you get to go first. What are you going to do? Well, you can buff people. There's other things you can do as you play the classes. So for more about perception, it's described later on. That's on page 47. Now, one thing you'll notice later on in the page 498, when choosing what type of roll to use for initiative, this is in the learning how to play section of the book, they say perception is the most obvious choice. So when someone says roll for initiative, think about perception value, look in your character sheet, write that down, keep track of it, and remember how it's generated, okay? That's a really, really key part of this whole proficiency bonus system. Now, obviously, saving throws. Now, if you play 3.0, 3.5, fortitude, reflex, and willpower saving throws, which are based upon your constitution and your dexterity and your wisdom, also have an effect on your saving throws. But you have each kind of saving throw, add your character's vortex, what is that? Fortitude, reflex, and will proficiency bonus as appropriate, plus the ability modifier associated with that kind of saving throw. Let's just take a specific example. Say you're trying to resist some kind of a charm person spell or something like that, or something that's going to attack you mentally. That would be a willpower save or a will save. So it might apply to your wisdom. Your wisdom ability modifier might be +4 for having 18 wisdom. So you got +4, and then you're going to have a proficiency bonus that's also included for you. Because remember, the proficiency bonus equals your character's level based upon a rank. So this is where things can get kind of tricky. You're like, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot to add my level. Well, as you level up and become more experienced, you're getting better at saving throws. And when you look in the bestiary, which I got sitting over here, and look at some of these armor class numbers, just look up the Grim Reaper, okay? Take a moment, look up the Grim Reaper, look up an Ancient White Dragon, and see what those in-game level 19, level 21, look at the Giants at level 10 range, look at what their AC numbers are, look at what their perception roll numbers are, like +45. You're like, oh my goodness, wow. So you really need to make sure that as you are this is one of your big forms of progression for your character. So let's just jump onto that. In fact, in melee, let's talk about fighting in melee. This is something that's very interesting because when you first read it, it sounds kind of complicated, but it's not really that big of a deal. So here we go. Melee strikes and range strikes, but to hit only, not damage rolls. So next to where you've written your character's melee and ranged weapons, calculate the modifier to strike. You may have heard me mention in the previous video, strike is their new way of saying I'm attacking a melee attack, okay? They're calling it a strike. There's movement, there's melee attacks, right? In this game, they call them strikes and strides, okay? So movement is strides, and melee attacks or shooting a bow is called a strike. So they've kind of consolidated all those into those two terms. You're either striking or striding, or casting a spell, or doing whatever else you want to do, or reacting. So the modifier for a strike, which is a 2-hit, whether you're shooting a bow, using a blowgun, throwing a throwing dagger, nailing the crap out of something with a rapier right in the stomach, is equal to your character's proficiency bonus, which then, remember, includes your level with the weapon plus an ability modifier, usually strength for melee strikes or dexterity for range strikes. Like, okay, read that very carefully. Sound like Joe Pesci, right? So your chance to hit is going to be modified by your character's proficiency bonus, which includes your level, with the weapon plus an ability modifier. So if you're doing a barbarian strike and you use a two-handed weapon, it's a strength weapon. There's a table for this. I'm pretty sure two-handed weapon will probably be a strength weapon. You might have 18 strength with +4, and you might have a proficiency bonus that's being your level 10. You got 10 for the leading level 10, and maybe your expert at martial weapons or whatever weapon class is. And wow, my proficiency bonus for all this stuff and my melee attacks +17. This is wonderful because you're attacking someone with 35 armor class. So you roll a d20. You're going to need an 18 or higher to hit that thing, something around those range. So now the second paragraph is really important. You also add any item bonus from the weapon. So if you had a +2 weapon, +4 weapon, and any other permanent bonuses or penalties. So if you have some kind of debuff on you, like the condition cards, I got them around here somewhere. Where are these condition cards at? They came in, the Amazon delivered them finally the other day. These are really useful, actually. I'm not a big card guy. Like, I don't buy a bunch of accessories just to have them. Although on my old age here, at 53 years of old, I start collecting everything I can get my damn hands on, that's for sure, because I love it, because I'm like a big kid at heart. If you haven't seen these, are really useful. These are all the conditions that happen in the game. They're like debuffs from Guild Wars 2. You'll be able to put these down on the table and say, hey, listen, dude, I'm sorry, but your dude is immobilized and blinded. Here, keep track of these 2 cards next to your character so we can all remember. And you'll be able to slip a little counter underneath it to say, well, how long am I blinded for? You know, and you can have the number underneath it, and how long am I going to be immobilized, blinded for, and immobilized for. So you can move these around. It's like, oh, I only got 2 rounds left of being immobilized, but I got, you know, this many rounds left of being blinded, etc. I'm getting off topic here. So you add the item bonus to the weapon. This is when we talk about these circumstantial or these temporary type penalties that might be happening. Okay, so you add any item bonus to the weapon, any other permanent bonuses or penalties. Now these aren't permanent, right? But if there's some kind of permanent bonus to you, like you have something that's giving you a bonus to hit, that's like the weapon buff or something like that, that's going to give you an additional bonus. Let's get these cards out of the way. So, where are we at? There we are. Okay, so you now the way you usually add your character strength modifier to damage rolls, while ranged weapons might add some of your character strength modifier depending on the weapon's trait. See weapon entry. So this is what I want to make an inch of. When you heard me say earlier, 2-hit only. So the proficiency bonus is going to be things that are going to affect your armor class, your difficulty class, your skill checks, your perception initiative, your chance to hit, but it's not going to affect your damage. So you're not going to get some kind of damage bonus because you're level 7. So it's not like base attack bonus, which you may remember from 3.0. If you ever played 3rd edition 3.5, you saw the base attack bonus numbers got huge, and they were different for different classes. So I hope that kind of explains that. So remember, melee, attacking, shooting a bow, and all that kind of business, that proficiency bonus, is going to be part of that, including your ability modifier and whatever weapon bonuses you might have in that situation that are considered permanent. Okay, now in my opinion, I don't know why they didn't mention any temporary bonuses, like if someone's cast a spell like Bless or something that gives everyone in the party a chance to hit better. Bless may have changed. I haven't memorized all the spells yet, so but you would probably want to consider that as well. Let's move on to skills. Now skills seems pretty obvious, right? Proficiency bonus for each skill in which your character is trained. Remember we talked about the different training levels earlier, like trained, expert, master, and legendary. Add your proficiency bonus for the skill, typically +3 for a first level character to indicate the abilities modifier, as well as either applicable bonuses and penalties, which means someone casts a bless in a party, things like that. Determine the total modifier for the skill. For skills your character is untrained in, use the same method, but your proficiency bonus is 0. So skills, which you're going to check all the time, you can even see in the opening chapter of the introduction, there's a little example combat situation here somewhere. Here it is. Is this it here? No, this isn't it. Here it is, pages 14 and 15. If you read through this situation with Eric, Liz, and Judy, and James, there's a number of situations in here where there are skill checks, especially when the person's trying to check the tripwire, and early on the rogue's trying to check for the tripwire. You need to see these and have this crystallize in your mind while you talk about with a skill check. All right, that's pretty obvious. Let's go to this class DC. Well, what is this all about? This is kind of strange. A class DC sets the difficulty for certain abilities granted by your character's class. So you may be a rogue, you may be a barbarian, you may be not a paladin, it's called something else now, like a champion. You may be a sorcerer, you may be a wizard. There may be elements that you have that contribute to this class-specific DC. And here's what it is. This DC equals 10 plus your proficiency bonus for their class DC. So everyone starts off with 10. Do you remember this from before? When you roll up the characters, and we talked about ancestries and heritage in the previous video, guess what? Everyone started off with 10 base ability scores. So this remembering 5s and 10s is starting to permeate the whole game system, which I actually really like. As long as you can remember some of the high-level concepts, it's not too hard to remember the details. But when you first start reading the book and going from front to back, you're like, oh my God, how am I going to keep track of all this stuff? So you can read that's on page 29. When you get to build your own class and build your own character, you'll see a little bit more detail what that is. So the DC for the class is the proficiency bonus for their class plus the modifier for the class's ability score. Now, what you could do right now if you want to, you could just take the book and say, okay, let's just look up some class somewhere, and you could probably start thinking about how does that actually apply. Here's one, just a good old fighter feat. Do any of the feats, do any of the abilities have anything that make you do a specific check versus your class DC? That may be where this starts to tie into that. I haven't gotten to all the classes yet, but that's the kind of idea that you're going to find out. The class DC is described on each beginning page for each one of the, like the fighter class here, like the trained in fighter class DC, this difficulty class. The class's difficulty class, it's kind of confusing. So you can look up that kind of stuff yourself. Do it on a per class basis, but as an overall rule of thumb, you're going to have to, it's going to start off with 10 plus your proficiency bonus, which means it's going to get bigger as you level up, right? So this thing is going to be growing. It's part of your progression. And then plus a modifier for the class key ability score. So a fighter is going to have strength, level 10 fighter, 18 strength, 19 strength. You're adding another 4, you add another 5. You've got this DC of 10 plus that. I mean, you can start to see that these numbers are going to get big. They're going to go over 20, okay? So that's to be expected, because if you peek ahead, like I said earlier, and look in the bestiary and see what some of these armor class numbers are, you're like, oh my goodness, some of these numbers go up to 50. So that's pretty crazy. Now, armor class, I just mentioned that a moment ago. How ironic. Here we are right in front of us. And let's see if we can actually highlight this properly without making it look stupid. Here we go. So armor class, I'm not going to go into too much detail with this, but it is affected by your proficiency bonus yet again. So it's not like in AD&D. A lot of people that come to my video channel have come here from AD&D world. So you folks who already know this from Pathfinder 1 or don't laugh too much. But in AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, your dexterity is one of the things that would modify your armor class. Having high strength didn't do anything like that. Having a higher level didn't do anything like that. And since proficiency bonus is considering your level, okay, this is a way for your armor class to increase. Well, that needs to happen. They did that in 3.0. They had a base attack bonus, and they started increasing the number. Every level you got, different for each class. This is a unified rule. So your character's armor class represents how difficult you are to hit in combat. It's not a penetration value or something like that. To calculate your AC, add 10, once again, there's a number 10, to your character's dexterity modifier up to the armor dexterity modifier cap, which is described on page 274, plus the proficiency bonus with their armor, plus the armor items bonus to AC. So you've got a few things here. Things get to be like 3 or 4 things added together, jotted down, because it won't change till you level up again. Just be sure to read very carefully, like, okay, I'm calculating my armor class. It's not plate and shield AC 2 anymore. You know, it's not this, I've got 19 AC, I've got 35 AC, I have 108 AC like in Neverwinter Nights, right? It's going to be very, very different, but it's going to consider that proficiency bonus, which means what you've got, how you've gone from trained to expert to master to legendary is going to have an effect on that. And there's certain levels where you can even train those things to that level. So it's all going to scale up, and it's going to be scaled upon what you pick it to be. Now, things like, did you raise your statistics in dexterity? Is having a high armor class important to you? Did you realize that if you want to increase your armor class or increase your dexterity is one of the ways to do it? Increase your armor items bonus to AC, get better armor on, right? Make sure you don't pass the dexterity modifier cap. So there's ways you can start working with this besides just, oh, I've got this set of gear on and I'm playing a druid and I can wear leather armor and that's it forever. There's nothing I can do about it. So there'll be some very interesting builds people put together to max out their AC. Now, AC is going to prevent you from getting hit, all right? So in summary, not summary, but this increases, like you've heard me mention already, this increases with your level, right? Let's just highlight this properly. This mouse sucks. This isn't my good mouse. This is my gaming mouse. I got this chump mouse. All right, here we go. Increase your level. It's basically progression. So your proficiency bonus all increased by 1 because you gained a level. So your AC, armor class, attack rolls to hit only, perception, initiative, saving throws, 3 of them, vortex, there I am, I go again, fortitude, willpower, fortitude, will, and reflex saves, skill modifiers, trying to do something that you've got a particular skill in, spell attack rolls. I haven't played a caster in D&D in so long. I certainly didn't play one very often in 3rd edition. I'll have to learn that system. That'll be cool. I'll have to do a whole video on how the spell attack roll system works. And the class DC. That's a brand new concept. I'm going to have to wrap my head around that. So all these things increase by at least 1. So maybe there's some situations where it's higher. So when you level up, they'll say to you, increase all your proficiency bonuses by 1 from your new level and make other increases to your proficiency bonuses as necessary from skill increases for other class features. So imagine 1,000 experience points is all you need to get to the next level. Are you still watching this? You should watch this. Make sure it doesn't change colors. If it changes color, there's something wrong with you. Maybe you should get some water. I'm joking. So as you level up, you're going to have to go back and do a little bit of bookkeeping. And that's where someone having an electronic builder is going to be really handy. So you've leveled up, but you're going to have to make some choices. So it's not like, oh, I leveled up. Let me just put 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here, and 1 here, and recalculate all this. And all these 13s turn to 16s, and all these 16s turn to 17s. And this comes to 5, and this comes to 3. Now I have a hard choice. Which one do I rank up? Oh, I can't get this left because I'm level 7. This is level 13. I can get this up to master, but I don't want to because I want this other feat. You're crafting this character. You have all these decisions to make. As you play the game, and it takes a long time to level up too, you'll be like, how is the game evolving? How am I building my character while I'm evolving the strength and the power of my character? You aren't going to sit down at home and create this unstoppable killing machine build that's going to be the be-all, end-all like you could in 3rd edition, like a crit weapon master rapier with a threat level of, 10 to 20, I think it was, if you did it properly with Monk in there. That power gaming stuff won't be there anymore. You'll be able to organize your character around synergies by taking advantage of the proficiency bonus and thinking about it because it touches so many systems in the whole game. So remember, I call it as a progression element. Your proficiency bonus is going to be really, really important for you. Let's pull this up here, right? So the class-centric or initial proficiencies. This is interesting. When you choose your character's class, they gain a set of initial proficiencies. These proficiencies measure your character's ability to perform a task, use ability, succeed at checks. We're getting into more vague language because it's all-encompassing and covers lots of different things. Proficiency ranks, not bonus, range from trained to legendary. We saw that earlier. See, they're not using the language as much. They're not repeating themselves over and over. They're not copying and pasting, which is great. You've kind of got it by now, right? If your character's trained in perception, which remember kind of means an initiative roll, a saving throw, or another statistic, they gain a proficiency bonus equal to their level plus 2. While if they have expert proficiency, you gain a proficiency bonus equal to level plus 4. So they're making you think. This is about the writing in this book, which is really, really good. If you've ever done any teaching or anything like that, you give someone the first information, F equals MA, force equals mass times acceleration, here's the acceleration number, here's the force, here's the mass, remember it's not in pounds. You start doing this, you start giving some numbers to people, and it starts to click. So the whole book is written the same kind of way, where it's very verbose, very long-winded, but it gives you lots of fun examples, and it starts tapering off in the details. So later on, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I almost forgot. It's been a while. I just hit a expert proficiency. Now I've got plus 4. It goes 2, 4, 6, 8, right? Really important. So there's only 2 class-specific feats that I could find that have proficiency bonuses affecting the class-specific feat. Now, you may have seen all the different classes. Different classes have a secret, like the thief here. They have different feats they can pick at certain levels. And you go, okay, I can take at level 1, I've created a brand new rogue, and I've got this, I can nimble dodge, or trap finder, or twin feint, which is 2 actions. Your next is reaction, which one I want to pick. And as you level up and higher and higher and higher, you get some of the different level. There's one at 4th level. You get these at 5th level, 8th level, 10th level, 12th level, like every 2 levels, but all the way up to 20th. You can take some of these multiple times and increase them, if I'm not mistaken. Please, someone clarify that for me. Can I take implausible infiltration more than once? I doubt it. How about nimble roll? This is a level 8 feat. If I put, can I take this feat multiple times? I would think you would be able to do so, if that makes sense to me. But anyway, getting back to what I'm talking about here. The Barbarian class has one called Spirit's Wrath. The Wisp attack modifier is equal to your proficiency bonus for martial weapons plus your strength modifier. You can tell if you're playing a class in a game, you're going to need to master the class. So not take a master class, not one of these like how to write a book type things. You're going to need to master the class. You're going to need to read through all these details. But the proficiency bonus is going to start jogging your memory every single time you hear it. Oh yeah, that's right. My proficiency bonus is 17. My proficiency bonus is 9. It's 6. It's 8. It's 12. And so when you see something that says, oh, this is cool. This will take advantage of my proficiency bonus. It's 12. This is really awesome because I have high strength modifier. I have an item bonus. I have a +3 weapon. I don't even know how the runes work yet. Can't wait to figure it out. You start thinking in your head, oh crap, I can get to +27. That's a lot better than what I'm using now, which is +21. So if you're really getting into the numbers, that's really cool. Once you get your proficiency bonus number kind of drilled in your head and realize that it's growing every single time you gain a level, you're going to start seeing how some things affect it. But when they're designing the game, for the class-specific feats, they didn't spread it all over the place. There's only one other one, which is a rogue class feat called Sabotage. So it's only on a critical success and a regular success, and it sounds pretty nasty. You deal damage equal to 4 times your thievery proficiency bonus. You deal damage equal to double your thievery proficiency bonus. That'll be interesting to see. You know, thieves, rogues, assassins, you know, in all the RPGs, they've always had this flat-footed, flanking. They've always been DPS machines, right? There's always been tons and tons of damage, lots of vulnerability. Some people are like, whoa, the rogue is really, really overpowered, really nasty. We'll see how that pans out. I think the rogue, should be nasty. I mean, they're giving up, sorry about the lighting glare here, it's shiny book. The rogue should be nasty, but we'll see how it pans out. We'll see how much defensiveness they can handle. Is the rogue's weakness going to be spells? Are they going to be susceptible to being blown up? Are they going to be susceptible to having not really good AC? We'll see. Now, in the game, which I haven't read the system specifically in detail, but there's a chapter on Animal Companion, and your Animal Companion uses your level to determine its proficiency bonus. So it's not using your proficiency bonus, it's just using your level. So that's you got to keep that in mind. This is not a situation, oh man, I can have a wolf animal companion and his proficiency bonus will be the same as mine. No, you're level 5. It's going to have a proficiency bonus of 5. So that's another detail that you have to kind of remember. The book's really well written, really well organized. And as you can see, once again, you got your little MLA numbers here on every single one of these. So you're like, hey, listen, I really should put bookmarks on these things, but I haven't done it yet. Let's just do the skill check thing, right? Let's go over that. Skill checks and skill DCs, and DC means difficulty class. When you're actively using a skill, often by performing one of its actions, you might attempt a skill check, rolling a d20 and adding your skill modifier, like how many ranks you have in a skill usually, or maybe it's based upon what your associated ability score is. To determine this modifier, here we go, it's going to explain it to us. Add your ability modifier for the skill's key ability, okay, which means ability score. So you're doing something that requires dexterity, then you're going to use the ability modifier you have for dexterity. Your proficiency bonus for the skill, and which also includes your level, and any of the bonuses and penalties could be something, a weird situation like trying to pick a chest in a windy, stormy night and there's no light, and the only lightning flashing, you can't hardly see the lock mechanism or something. So the skill modifier, which is going to modify your roll, modifier the skill's key ability for, plus your proficiency bonus, and other bonuses, plus the penalties. And plus, it could be a negative if they're like integers, right? So it could be plus or minus. So just close this back here. It turned blue. I swear, I thought it turned blue just for a second. Examples of proficiency bonus affecting feats. So everyone knows there's tons and tons and tons of feats in the game. I can really only find 3 situations where feats were affecting, which is assurance, trick magic item, and untrained improvisation. You can read about those yourself. I won't go into detail, right? So armor class, you heard me mention that before. So this is a little bit different if you're an old school AD&D player. Your armor class, AC, not air conditioning, measures how well you can defend against attacks. We said that earlier. When a creature attacks you, your armor class is the DC for that attack roll. That means a number to beat, right? So you've got an enemy going to be attacking you. Hey, let's do something with this screen over here. Nothing's been happening over here. You've got this big fire giant trying to attack you. You're on the front lines, and you're with your little monk buddy here. And so this guy's going to try to hit you, right? So you need to know what your armor class is. that's going to be the difficulty class for him to beat. So say you have some armor class of 24, and this guy rolls a d20 and he rolls a 20, but he's going to have bonuses of plus 17. It's going to be pretty easy for him to hit you. But if your armor class is 35, and he's got plus 17, that's 17, that cuts it in half. He needs a 17 or higher to hit you. So that's going to be all modified by this. But there's some details to it that's different. You're not just donning a set of armor and calling it even for the day. It's not like, you know, plate, mail, and shield like in the old days. It's not 10 to negative 10. It's very different. They're incrementally growing numbers, right? So how does it work? Your armor class measures how well you can defend. When a creature attacks you, your armor class is the DC for that attack roll. Your armor class equals, okay, this is on page 268, 10 plus your dexterity modifier up to the dex cap, plus your proficiency bonus, which of course, remember, once again, includes how skilled you are in it, which plus 2, plus 4, plus 6, plus 8. So say you're a legendary, it'd be plus 8, plus your dexterity modifier, the armor items bonus to AC. So say you had like a shield that had plus 2 to AC or something like that, and then plus any penalties or things like that, you might have a condition happening to you. So I haven't played a session yet. It'll be neat to see. I have some pre-generated characters. I'm still learning the whole book. That's what this video is a way for me to force myself to learn the proficiency bonus system. So there's a lot of things that go into this to make this work. So you're going to start off with 10, right? And then you're going to add your dexterity modifier. Say in this case is 0, so he's a cleric, doesn't have anything like that. And say his proficiency bonus, say he's level 5, so that's 5. Maybe he's wearing chain and shield, and he's expert in chain or shield or that type of weapon or that type of armor or something. So maybe he's like whatever, additional 6 or something like that. So that puts him at 16. And then he's going to have the item bonus to the AC. Say he has some plus 4 shield on or something to give him a 20 AC. But we'll see how that works out. The thing that's tricky about this thing that kind of threw me off is his proficiency bonus is based on category, light, medium, and heavy. So let's say the cleric is wearing heavy armor, right? So he has a skill to wear heavy armor, and that's going to affect his, it's like his skillfulness at wearing that type of armor is going to modify his armor class, which is really means, once again, more skill rolls. So the proficiency bonus for the category. So you're going to need to be proficient in wearing the armor to take advantage of the bonus there. So that's actually pretty important. Otherwise, use your unarmored defense number. So armor class is something I need to dig into further. Whoa, sorry about the bump there. But that's basically how it works. That's on page 268 if you want to reel it up. And you've heard me say this about attack rolls already. When making an attack roll, determine the result, roll a d20, adding your attack modifier for the weapon or unarmed attack you're using. Modifiers for melee and ranged attacks are calculated differently. So here's the two formulas. So the melee attack is strength modifier, or dex if you're finesse, plus proficiency bonus, remember, includes your level, plus other bonus, not just your level, but it includes your level, plus other bonuses and plus penalties. And the same for ranged attack, it's going to be dexterity modifier, not optional for strength. Notice that. So even in the old days, people are like, hey, I'm throwing a throwing hammer. Is that kind of a strength thing? Because I'm throwing it really hard, man. You know, so that's something very different. They've decided that, listen, if you're using a ranged attack modifier, maybe throwing weapons is different, but you're shooting a bow or a crossbow. Let's just keep it simple. Short bow, composite bow, long bow, whatever you're using, blowgun, I don't know. If you're throwing daggers, I would assume it's the same thing. In the example gameplay session in the actual book, when the rogue is throwing a daggers, they're also using the same kind of thing. We'll just put this here. You can stare at that too. And other bonuses and penalties. So ranged attacks are just going to use dexterity. Melee attacks are going to use strength modifier or finesse if you're using a finesse-oriented type character. So if you're playing someone that's using a bow or switching back and forth or throwing weapons and you're playing a rogue and you're a dexterity-oriented class, you're going to be good to go. If you're a heavily armored, strength-oriented type of attacking class, you might want to consider going weapon finesse if you're all dexterity-oriented. This is the section I wanted to bring it, talk about it really briefly. But there's a spell attack roll, spell DC. If you have the ability to cast spells, you'll have a proficiency rank for your spell attack rolls. So you'll always add a proficiency bonus. That's on 447. So the spell attack roll result is a d20 roll. So you're like, you know, it's like rolling to hit with a spell in a way, plus ability modifier used for spell casting, plus the proficiency bonus, plus other bonuses and penalties. I'm not sure how that works yet. I'm going to have to read up on that. But I was very interested to see that playing a caster, this is what it sounds like. Might be an assumption. Could be off a little bit. Playing a caster, you're going to want to make sure you're not just, hey, I got this level 7 spell. I cast it. Whatever happens, here's the saving throw for it. It's going to take into consideration how strong and how powerful your character is. So these spell DCs, almost like your class DCs, are going to affect how hard it is for someone to save against it, or maybe even your ability to hit if the spell has a 2-hit roll to it. Okay, maybe you have to touch someone. You would think that'd be a melee attack for someone flat-footed, unarmed attack. But maybe if you're casting magic missile, I don't know how that works yet. I'm going to try to figure that out, but it's interesting to see because it's intriguing. Because he's playing a caster, you might need to consider like which is the right spell to cast for this situation. We're fighting some creature that's much more powerful than us. I'm going to have a really low chance of actually landing a good hit on it, or maybe you will because it's not a melee attack. It's your ability modifier used for spell casting. So maybe as the casters rank up, they end up having the same level of ability modifiers, excuse me, not ability modifiers, but proficiency bonuses that everyone else has, right? So it'll be neat to see how that works out. So let's go on to spell DC, right? We just mentioned that a moment ago. Here's how this actually works out in detail. Many spells allow creatures to defend themselves using their AC or a saving throw. Two statistics govern how potent your spells are against these defenses: your spell attack roll and your spell DC. When recording these, your character sheet, add together the numbers that always apply. They had this in Neverwinter Nights in 3.5 and 3.0. Like you're saving against Ice Storm. Your saving throw is not just a reflex save for yourself. You've got a DC coming from the caster itself. When recording these, your character sheet, add together only numbers that apply, usually just your ability modifier and proficiency bonus. So the proficiency bonus, yet again, is right in there in the spell DC. The higher your proficiency bonus, which includes your level, the harder it is for things they are going to be able to resist your spells. So when you're fighting different enemies, be sure when you look to the bestiary, don't cheat too much, and start getting an idea like, okay, this is just a bunch of goblins, this isn't going to be a big deal. You got a fire giant, they may have a really high resistance to a certain type of magic. You may find something that's going to be harder for you to get your spell to go through their resistances. They may be able to resist against this stuff much easier. You may not want to do a reflex saving throw type spell against something that has a high reflex save number. So the spell attack roll is your spell casting ability modifier, okay, which the proficiency bonus, other bonuses and penalties. The spell DC equals 10, kind of like the armor, kind of like the ability score. Your spell casting ability modifier, proficiency bonus again, other bonuses, that's page 298. All right, we're going super duper fast here because I'm trying not to go too long-winded. Counteracting spells, we're on one more page to go and we're almost done. Some spells, such as Dispel Magic, can be used to eliminate the effects of another spell. At least one creature, object, or manifestation spell you're trying to counteract must be within range of the spell you're using. Your attempt to counteract check, page 458, kind of like Counterspell was in 3.0, use your spellcasting ability modifier and your proficiency bonus for spell attack rolls. So remember, your proficiency bonus for spell attack rolls is defined right above up here. The spell attack roll, your spellcasting ability modifier is here, right? This is the spell attack roll. So when they're talking about your proficiency bonus for spell attack rolls, so they're probably referring to this, okay? So that's pretty tricky. I'll have to do a video on that and teach myself exactly how that works. If you know exactly how it works right now, feel free to leave a comment and let people know. But it looks to me like this is an engaging way for casters to build their character towards becoming harder and harder for the enemies to resist their spells. And they may need to have a plethora, a different diversity of spells in order to make sure that they can actually land things on different types of enemies. Checks. Hey, everyone knows there's checks. Roll D20, the whole D20 system happens. Your proficiency bonus is going to help you with that. That's on page 444. So let's go down here to this last section here. This is the basic kind of formula like you even see in Mega Traveler, things like that, for what's the formula for a check. Well, if you have to come up with a check as a game master or dungeon master or whatever you want to call yourself, the number on the die plus the ability modifier. Say, listen, I'll tell you what, I want you to jump this 10-foot pit, and it looks pretty deep, and there's a lot of wind in the passageway, and it's kind of hard to see. There's a lot of spider webs and junk, and there's some roots coming down from above. Say it's just a cave. It's like Indiana Jones jumping across the pit with the roots, right? And I'm going to make you a dexterity check for this. No intelligence, no strength. I just want you to be nimble enough to kind of judge where to land your first foot, take off, and make the jump. It's only a 10-foot pit, no big deal, but you are carrying a lot of crap, and you have a shield in your hand, you're swinging, you got a big flail that kind of flounces around when you jump, and it's on you got a big backpack full of crap, right? You spend all your 150 silver pieces on that stuff. So your ability modifier, like, oh, listen, I only have like a +1 dexterity modifier. You roll a number on a D20, so okay, that's fine. Let's see what you roll. You roll a 12 plus a 1 that I talked about just a second ago. Your proficiency bonus, circumstance bonus. Now, this is something very interesting. We're going to have to talk about that because there's some stacking rules. I'm not going to make a joke about the word circumstance, I promise. Proficiency bonus, it's the circumstance bonus, the status bonus, and the item bonus. So in my little pit jumping scenario, there may be some circumstances. Like the DM has said, I said, listen, it's kind of dark, so I'm going to give you another -1 All right, so that's going to counteract your dexterity, and it's really windy, and you're kind of overloaded a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of roughly say, I'm going to give you -2 penalty total. So that's kind of a circumstance bonus. If you had some kind of item bonus that gave you like fleet of foot, or you're more agile like the cat boots or something like that, you would put that in here as well and would probably counteract the DM's negative modifier. So the circumstance penalty, status penalty, item penalty, all untyped penalties equals the result. So in that situation, let's say I said, I wanted you to say the DC for jump in the pit is only a 10. Well, you rolled a 12. I took away 2, but you had a bonus of 1, so you probably made it just fine, right? So let's talk about this stacking item proficiency, but don't double the item. This is interesting. In 3.5, 3.0, this is kind of a tricky thing to have to keep track of. It's hard to understand which things stack, whether your belt, your jewelry, your rings, your boots, your cloak, all those kind of things. Were some of them stacked for armor class, some of them did not, because the armor class system was completely different. Let's read it together here. This is for page 444 again. There are 3 other types of bonuses that frequently appear: circumstance bonus, item bonuses, and status bonuses. If you have different types of bonus that would apply to the same roll, you add them all. But if you have multiple bonuses of the same type, because there's 3, circumstance, item bonus, and status bonus, you can only use the highest bonus on a given roll, not the penalty. I'm the DM. I could say, Lee, what? It's really windy in the passageway. It's like 15-mile-an-hour gust. It's really dark. There's a lot of cobwebs and roots hanging down. You can't see real good. You have to kind of like duck and crane your neck. I'm going to take -1 away for the darkness. You can't see good because you're not a dwarf. You're a human. You can't see good in the dark. There's no light sources. -1 for the wind and -1 for like the weird awkwardness of not banging your head into a bunch of roots just to jump a 10-foot pit, right? So I might give you a -3 to your roll. That may be circumstance penalty. Now, if you had some kind of circumstance bonus, you would only get to add one of them. Let's say you had a bluff spell on or some other thing that gave you a bonus to your saving throws or whatever you did. Maybe you had agile like the cat or some spell put on you by a druid. I don't know what the spells are yet. So say there's something else. So say you had some piece of gear that gave you a bonus, then you could add that as well as a modifier to help you. And say there's a status bonus. Well, you're also, I don't know, we were talking about status. You're also frightened. Oh my God, how horrible. So what does frightened say, right? You look at this right here. What does it say? Too dark. Take a status penalty equal to your frightened value to all your checks and DCs at the end of each of your turn. The value of frightened condition decreases by 1. So you're scared. You're like, give me the idol. Give me the idol. You know, it's that kind of thing in the Indiana Jones movie, right? So if you're frightened, if say some kind of undead creatures are chasing you down the passageway or you're going forward, you've been hit with the status effect, you're going to take -1. That 12 with your other modifiers, you might fail. You might fall in the pit. So that's what they mean by those type of things. So let's get back to it here real quick. If you have a different type of bonus that would apply the same roll, you'll add them all. But if you have multiple bonuses of the same type, you can only use the highest bonus on a given roll. That's the things that benefit you. In other words, they don't stack. For instance, if you have both a proficiency bonus and an item bonus, you add both to your D20 result. But if you have 2 item bonuses that can apply on the same check, you only add the highest one. So say you had something +2 on the cloak and +3 on the gloves, and they're the same kind of thing about maybe they're like agility or whatever like that, or safe fall or something. You wouldn't add those, right? Or something to do with the situation of the check. That my example isn't that really good. Someone could probably come up with a better example. So in summary, to keep it simple, your bonuses, not the penalties that the DM came up with, or the status effects you have on you, or from items don't stack, okay? The bonuses from circumstances don't stack. That's going to kind of have to be kind of up to the DM. You know, I've had situations in some of my games. I know I kind of house roll a lot of stuff, and we'll see how it goes in Pathfinder 2. I'm going to try to stick absolutely by the book because I have complete confidence in this system. And it means 41 years of this stuff, man. It's got to be perfect by now. That there may be a situation where this really odd scenario happens where, you know, your party just wiped everyone out, and there's only one guy left, and he's running down the passageway, and you're pursuing him, and you're full of bravery. You're full of, you're anxious to do the killing blow. You're the monk. You leap over the pit. I might give you like a morale bonus from a war game that you don't even have anything, a rule for that yet. We're not going to get the Game Master Guide till what, later middle of next year or something, or February. So, you know, I wouldn't call it a completely no, but if you want to play by the book, kind of like a Wrath of Khan type quote, then you want to do that. So let's just go about this playing the game thing. This is repetition. So 446 to 449, there's a really great chapter that tells you exactly, expanded in detail, how to do these things. They talk about attack rolls for melee and range, armor class, spell attack rolls, perception, initiative, saving throws, vortex, reflex, and will. Not vortex, I was saying earlier. Don't get confused. It's not some incredible bonding agent you put on a boat. Skill checks, counteracting spells. So into playing the game chapter, this is where the real pro cool, awesome pen and paper role-playing designer meat of his writing, of the team's writing, guys and girls alike, have put the descriptions in there. And that's where once you understand these high-level concepts, you can go, okay, how do I actually really handle this reflex saving throw? How do I really handle perception? All right, cool. So there was only one exploration phase of the game that had a thing called Follow the Expert, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of like this Gordon Ramsay show that's been going on lately, where he like goes to Peru and learns how to cook Peruvian food, or he goes to Morocco and makes Moroccan food. And they have the dork is like, you know, rappelling down the side of cliffs. It's like something that Bear Grylls would do. He's following the expert, kind of an idea. So choose an ally attempting to recurring skill check while exploring, such as climbing. You're able to talk back and forth, like, how do I rappel down this cliff without killing myself? They don't give you a full lesson, harness you up, and just let go and watch. The expert is kind of talking you through it. So the exploration mode, you're doing something you don't normally ever do. There's a rule that kind of describes this. You basically match their tactic or attempt similar skill checks. Thanks to your allies' assistance, you can add your level as a proficiency bonus to the associated skill check, even if you're untrained. Now, you're not adding your proficiency bonus. You can add your level as if it was a proficiency bonus. So additionally, you gain a circumstance bonus to your skill check based on your allies' proficiency. Okay, so how would that work? Let's say, I don't know, let's say Jorge Masvidal is going to show me how to do a flying knee. He's going to show me how to get downtown Miami and get me a Cuban sandwich, right? And stay away from this area, right? He's guiding me through this very risky part of town where you can get killed and get hit with a flying knee, and there's Ben Askrens everywhere, right? So his bonuses and his expertise, I'll be able to match that to a certain degree based upon if I had to do a skill check on something, like whether I'm frightened or I'm scared or whatever's going on, I can add my level. As I'm a level 5, I could have +5 because I got a guide. You know, the guide, I'm following someone expert level or higher, I can get his. Now, if he's even higher than that, I get a circumstance bonus. So, hey, Jorge Masvidal, he's legendary in Miami, so I got +8 for that. But maybe you cut that down to half, which is 4. That's why you see the numbers are in half. They say +4 for legendary, +3 for master. Really bad example. Don't follow Jorge Masvidal downtown in Miami. You probably will get in trouble. So let's go on from there. Skill increases in class chapters. So this is interesting. This is really, really interesting. And we're almost done. Skill increases. This is a quote from the Barbarian chapter. At 3rd level, and every 2 levels thereafter, sounds like law work, you gain a skill increase. So every 2 levels. So this is going to happen 10 times while you're going to level 20. You can start at level 1, and then at level 3, and then level 5, then level 7. You know, they're primes. It's like Ellie from Contact, right? You can use this to increase either to increase your proficiency rank to trained in one skill you're not trained in, untrained, or to increase your proficiency rank in one skill you're already trained to expert. So say you're expert in, I don't know, climbing or something like that. I don't know one of the skills off the top of my head, but say you're already an expert at something, like one of the armor types we talked about earlier. You can jack that up to expert. And then at 7th level, which is kind of a cap, you can use the skill increase to increase your proficiency rank to master in a skill you've already become an expert in. And then at 15th level, so you got to wait another 8 levels, you can use them to increase your proficiency rank to legendary in a skill you're already a master at. So this is going to give you this 2, 4, 6, 8. You'll see this in my summary points down here. As you get higher in level, things start to kind of exponentially expand with the proficiency bonuses, but your level number consistently just goes up. So you're going to need to make choices. This is going to be very, very tricky for you. All right, in summary, level and proficiency rank are critical for the effectiveness in multiple parts of the game. Ranking up proficiency rank is a decision to consider as you level up. Enhance your focus. I haven't built a character and played it yet, and give me like a month or so, right? But if I were to predict ahead, and you're probably thinking along the same lines, if I'm going to build a class that has a particular type of way of playing, like I'm a frontline guy, I charge in a battle, I do area effect CC, I'm knocking guys down, I'm setting up sneak attacks for the rogues, I'm just a killing machine. I don't do a lot of damage, but I can't be killed. I'm a frontline like a Guardian fighter was in 4th edition or something. I'm charging into battle, and if things go good, I'll switch to 2-hander and just wipe the floor with people. I am the frontline distraction machine, right? If that's what you want to do, you want to focus on all those choices that make you unkillable. You want to focus on those choices that are going to increase your ability to do the CC. So you're a CC, unkillable, heavy armored fighter. Maybe that's your goal, right? So the tremendous emphasis on trained, expert, master, legendary is +2, +4, +6, +8. It doesn't sound like a lot, but consider there's only 20 numbers on this dice, and +8 is what? I mean, you're talking like 40%. That's a 40% bonus to get to legendary. So that would be very, very helpful at high levels when you've got bonuses that are getting around 31, and you go ahead and look up something and you got that extra +8 happening, and then that puts you to 39, and then maybe a circumstance bonus or a buff from another teammate, and suddenly you're getting something that's 40. If I remember correctly, I think the Ancient White Dragon is like 45 AC. So, you know, don't power game it unless you just really are a power gamer. But remember, this is going to, you have to make hard choices because you can't have it all. You can't have everything. You'll pick a couple of your skills for your class. Your skill increases for your class, not just the general skills. To expert, and then to master, and then to legendary. You can't do them all. So you need to pick and choose carefully which ones you're going to want to do. So look for creative synergies to hyper-focus. I want to mention this. You know, I'm coming from the video game industry, so I am always thinking that way, right? The video game industry is not like pen and paper tabletop gaming. And some people hate me referring to this stuff, but I like to do it. It's the language I speak. So look for creative synergies and areas to hyper-focus. And when I say areas to hyper-focus, what I just said a moment ago. What are you good at doing? Well, you know, I need the mobility abilities. I will have a sword to shield or a flail and a shield. I'm going to make sure that my armor class is as high as possible. I'm putting statistics to dexterity because I'm not about doing damage. I'm about having high armor class because, as you remember earlier, your armor class relies heavily on your dexterity, not your strength. You pick a couple of mobility feats and you class feats and maybe some other skills that make you where you can do things that benefit if you charging to a pack of 4 or 5 enemies. You could just see them on the grid already, right? Here's your grid. You can charge into the pack. Where's a fighter at when you need one? Let's just use Mercedes here. You charge into the pack, bunch of baddies. These guys are too big. And your goal is not to go up here and DPS everything to death, but it's to go ahead and tie these guys down, get knockdowns happening, get CC happening, be able to fend off these multiple attacks. Maybe don't blow all 3 of your actions to do things defensively to tie them down. Don't just go in here and blow and go and just start going through your multiple attack penalty and start wiping it all out. Your goal is to control this area, and that's what you want to do. So you want to focus on things when you level up to get to master and get to legendary. So you're the most unkillable frontline control kind of a fighter possible. Not to be a controller like in 4th edition. We're not trying to do that. That may be your goal. You may want to have versatility where there's a specific thing you like to do. You just want to knock dudes down. Your goal in life is to knock things down to set up kills for your rogue. I almost said a thief and assassin here. Sorry. You want to set up kills. Knock this guy down, and the second part of your action, you want to engage this one and start doing half-step movements and start pulling him away from the area and get him snared. There's all kinds of things like that you can do. So think about what you want to do in the combat situation. Think about it in terms of synergies with your other classes. So things like your caster in the back is making sure the caster's going to be thinking like, how can I make sure this guy can't resist my crap? I'm landing. I'm not going to do any CC because I've got this frontline fighter that's awesome at doing crowd control. I got this amazing DPS that's going in there and wiping things out. So think about the synergy. I hate to say it, but this is kind of what you had to do in EverQuest 1. This game doesn't hold up anymore. It's still available if you want to play it. It's a very hard game to play. They've made it easier over the years, but the synergy of the group, I think, is something that is coming back into Dungeons & Dragons through Pathfinder Second Edition, and I can't wait to try that out myself. It sounds fantastic. All right, so let's get back on target here. So look for creative synergies and areas to hyper-focus. I think if you start building, I'm going to guess ahead, if you just start building your character, sure, your first few characters are going to be like, I'm building this one character because I'm learning the class. I'm building my rogue to be, I'm hiding in shadows and throwing daggers, and I'm doing sneak attack, and that's all I want to do, and I don't really want to be hit. I'm just going to focus on damage. That's all I want to do. Everyone else in the party should be doing what they want to do. You may be able to help out, but you may be playing in a situation where suddenly you start seeing people in your group start dropping like flies and dying because things aren't like they used to be. Things are hitting harder. There's a lot more attacks happening while melee around. You may find yourself trying to engage some kind of evil, diabolical drow cleric, and suddenly the clerics paralyze you and you're dead. So it looks to me like so far, all these choices you have about how you build your character are going to be really, really critical. Don't think too selfishly. Don't underestimate the idea of group thinking. This will be my advice to you. Think about it in terms of what can you do to make sure that the things you do build your group and build your role at the same time. You're playing a class for a reason, not just because you think it's awesome and fun for you. Also think about how your whole group is going to get to do so much more cooler stuff together and be successful because of the difficult challenge that Pathfinder 2e is providing that some of the other editions of D&D just never really did. And the other editions of D&D, you're just like, oh, you know, I just build the optimum character and just face roll everything. And then in AD&D, it was just the infancy of this type of game. It wasn't that hard. Characters were really, really weak. You did have to, I mean, you have magic users at level 10 with like 31 hit points. Can you believe it? So as you progress, look for your, look at your bestiary and note the proficiency bonuses for AC, perception, saves, fortitude, and reflex. Not Vortex. This book's available now. Grab it, right? I'm not saying be a cheater, right? Because if you're playing a character in a role-playing game, you're supposed to only really have the knowledge the character has. But when you're building your character, you're going to find in the very back they got a whole section here that tells you what level the characters are. Let's just look at something here. What do we got here? An ether spider, right? An ether spider, 155. What do we got for an ether spider? Here we go, ether spider. So athletics 12, stealth 12, that 15, that makes sense. Languages, Akala, whatever that is, perception, dark vision, I would expect that from a spider. It has +5 strength, +4 dexterity. Those are ability modifiers. Constitution +3, low intelligence, only +1 wisdom. High charisma, that's really interesting. Why would a creature like this, an ether spider, have such high charisma? I don't know. Its AC is only 21. So at level 5, you're probably going to nail this thing pretty well. Fortitude's pretty decent, +12. Reflex saves pretty high. I would imagine that makes sense. Willpower bonus is +10. Hit point 75. Wow, that's a lot. So 40-foot movement speed. That thing could move 120 feet in 1/6 second. Because remember, this thing's going to be moving very, very quickly. 40 feet is faster than any race in the game. So that's a really, really fast creature. And it's got melee attacks, range attacks, ether spider venom, ethereal step. It shifts to the ethereal plane. So wow, this is really nasty. You can hit him easily, but boy, is this thing agile and move around a lot. It has web burst. It's a 2-action ability that can do once per day. Ethereal web trap. Sounds really nasty. What a predator that thing is. Full page spread on these bestiaries. So go through here and think about some of the things you're going to face, because if you go in here and think that like, oh yeah, let's find something that's good old fashioned and boring, right? Something that you never thought before was going to really be interesting. How about a hill giant? Page 170. Everyone's killing hill giants. They're just big chodes, right? Nothing to worry about there. Let me get this up on screen. Get these jokers out of the way. Hill giants, hill giants, hill giants. Where are you? Big, dumb, ugly, stupid, +13 perception. Now, that's not bad. You roll a d20, you got 33 already. If you roll a 20, that is. AC 24, that's not too hard to hit. Fortitude and reflex saves are +17, +12, and +13 for willpower. For will saves, excuse me. 140 hit points. Now remember, you're going to start off with a decent number of hit points too. I've seen characters starting with like 22 and 25 hit points, but 140, and they got reaction abilities called Catch Rock. Melee, range, throw rock, all single actions, wide swing. The hill giant makes a single great club strike and compares the attack result to the AC up to 2 foes within its reach. Then you got to consider how far the reach is. It has low light vision. That's nasty. This thing would face roll people in AD&D. So this is like a panzer tank in a war game. I mean, these creatures are really, really powerful, really, really interesting, but it doesn't take a lot of information to get them into play. So when you are building your characters, think about what you're going to be facing, okay? And don't just think that's going to be like the other versions of the game and you can just do whatever the devil you want. Okay, so I hope that this video has been somewhat helpful for you. Hope you enjoyed riding along on the ship and listening to all the noise in the background. As always, Sword Coast Soundscapes, you should check his YouTube channel out. He has all kinds of cool ambient tracks. He made it for D&D, but they're good for anything. And I'm pretty sure this thing went blue once. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you like these kind of videos. If you want to hear more information about something else, I try to make them fun, entertaining, lighthearted. If you ever want me to paste this detailed information somewhere, I'll be happy to do it. It's basically just a series of page numbers that show you where I found things. You can do this yourself quite easily by just hitting Ctrl-F and just go next, 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 next. But I'm really, really excited. But boy, I tell you what, in summary, Proficiency Bonus is everywhere. It's really, really important for every single aspect of the game. Be sure you pick up on it and understand it. And it takes more than just memorizing UTEML. Okay, not UTemp, but UTEML. I guess you call it Utem. I can't pronounce that. So, really cool system. I really like it. I love the fact that they blended the number 10 and the number 5 is everywhere. So that's it for this video. Let me know if you have any comments or feedback. I'm probably going to dig into classes next, because this is, in some ways, I'm secretly teaching myself, because I can't do a video unless I've figured out some of it yet myself. So this is my way of kind of learning and gleaning out the details and trying to glean out these rules and consolidate them for reference for you. Okay? Hope it's been helpful, and we'll talk to you soon and see if we can get these guys a resurrection while we're at it. And someone killed that rooster. All right, cool. We'll talk to you later. See ya.